Um, like I said, bringing in Mr. Kayode Adegbola. He's the avid collector. Let me just do this biography and then we move on into the section. Um, Give me a sec. Okay. Mr. Kayode Adegbola is a Lagos-based lawyer, cultural entrepreneur. He is a founder of Adegbola Arts Project, a curatorial and advisory platform focused on Nigerian and African arts across modern, contemporary, and traditional practice. His forthcoming gallery, it's not forthcoming again, his gallery, Adegbola Gallery, opened on October 2025 with Heroes Past, which presents a exhibition re-examining Nigerian independence through art and cultural history. Through initiatives ranging from large-scale corporate commissioning and public art installation to collector-focused programs, Adebola is committed to strengthening the infrastructure of Nigerian art ecosystem. He is he practice for his practice foregrounds the rules of collectors and cultural institutions in shaping access, scholarships, and visibility for Nigerian and African arts within global discourse. So thank you very much for having us here. You can see a rounding applause. Let's welcome our speaker, our facilitator for today, Mr. Kayode Adegbola. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you so much, Paul, for your introduction. And thank you to you and the BYC team for deeming me fit to speak to a group of dynamic young artists this morning. It's something that I derive great pleasure from, to be able to, from time to time, share some of the things that I have learned in my journey. What a lot of people may not know is that I myself am an artist. I actually got into the art world through my photography, which I was doing very actively in both primary and secondary school. The first ever exhibition that I put together was in 2010, and it was an exhibition of my own photography. So if you hadn't heard it before, you heard it here first.
Thank you, sir.
It's really a pleasure to speak to you all this morning, and I hope that by the time we finish this session, we would have I would have imparted some knowledge on you, but more importantly, that you will have imparted some knowledge on me. So I hope that based on what I say during my presentation, you have questions that challenge my thought process, or allow me to leave this workshop with a better understanding of the artist's mindset. Because it's not enough to be speaking as a collector, or also as a dealer or gallerist now, as I have now opened a gallery of my own. Um, and again, it would be nice to also revisit my being an artist in the past. So I think I'm well placed to have the conversation, and I hope that it will be a very useful conversation. Paul has the slides, and I believe he will share his screen.
All right, my screen now.
Yes.
Great, great. Okay, you can go ahead now, sir.
Okay, so the topic that was foisted on me is what collectors look for in emerging artists, and I have added to that by saying building a sustainable art practice, because at the end of the day, you want to not be a flash in the pan artist. You want to, in my view, and I think it's better. So it's one of the things I should start off by saying is that I think it's better to earn money progressively as opposed to have a short period where you're earning more money than you've ever earned, and then you go into oblivion. And that's what I mean when I say a sustainable art practice. My name is Kayode Adegbola. I run Adegbola Art Projects. Adegbola Art Projects runs Adegbola Gallery. Adegbola Art Projects not only runs the gallery, but also is involved in many initiatives, including a recently completed public art project that was done for Unilever and specifically the Knorr brand in Onikon. So Adegbola Art Projects was the contractor for that. We essentially did landscaping beautification. We powered the site, and we also did the wrapping for the columns. And that was a partnership between Adegbola Art Projects and Inscribe Art. Inscribe Art represents OSA 7. I don't know if any of you knows OSA 7, but he's quite a well-known artist, and he's very into public art and graffiti art. So he was the artist who did the murals on the columns under the bridge in Unicon. So if any of you passes by there, even if I'm not there, wave, because it was probably about a year plus of planning and about 6 months of developing the site. It's about 1,200 square meters. Thank you, Michael. So we do projects like that. We do selling and non-selling exhibitions. We are also very big on private sales, which means that we play very much in the secondary market. So sometimes a collector wants to resell a work that has been sold before, mostly in the areas of masters or artists that have matured enough to have a secondary market. I do not participate in flipping the works of young contemporary artists, but artists whose works have matured, who have an active secondary market, and is an area that I'm interested in, and of course the gallery is interested in as well. So it's also something that you have to keep in mind. When I say building a sustainable art practice, it also means that you want to have an active secondary market that is not artificial and is not contrived. But I'll start the presentation based on what is written, because I've already said so much in my introductory words. Okay, so I like to, when I'm giving a presentation about artists or art in general, I try very much to sorry, there's an artist who says that they can't get in, so I'm trying to forward the link to them. I always say that, you don't actually have to have been to art school. Non-art school artists' lives matter. I also think that artists who haven't been to art school have the creative liberty, and they are not bound by what they are taught based on the curriculum. So this is not to say that going to art school is bad, but it's also not to say that being an artist who hasn't been to art school means that you are less than. So I just always like to start with that. In fact, in some cases, art school can limit an artist's worldview because they are boxed into the corner, or they're boxed into the curriculum. So I encourage artists to think outside the box, to challenge stereotypes, and to challenge even what they're taught. One of the things that I find helps develop the mind, develop ideas, is to ask the why behind many of the things you do. If you've been to art school, I think that you should look at it as a foundation for your practice, which goes back to what I've just said. Be open-minded and be open to experimentation. View your practice as an opportunity to unlearn, relearn, and think beyond theory and grades. So as a practicing artist, if you've been to art school, don't think about the things that earned you an A in school. Think about new things, think about things you were never taught. Look at art movements in different parts of the world. The contemporary market is super competitive, but the internet has made it so much easier for us, because it means that we can see what's happening in other jurisdictions. Aina, I'm not sure if it's you, but if it's only you, but somebody, you need to mute your mic. And if anybody else, there's a bit of interference. Thank you. Yes, so I was saying that I was talking about the internet having helped create this global village, right? The art world is super, super competitive. So the same collectors who could potentially be interested in your work, whether they are local or foreign, probably have another 100 artists of your caliber that they could be collecting their work or supporting their journey. So you really will have to differentiate yourself as well. And I'll talk about many of those things in further slides. Like I said, do not be afraid to explore the full extent of your creativity. I started off as a photographer. Then I advised people, I started collecting art. I advised my friends on how to build their own art collections. And today I've opened a gallery. Who knows what I'll be doing in another 10 years, but I'm constantly and consistently improving or expanding on my creativity. So you really need to think about all the different things you can do. I'm happy that Hanifa Adam is on the call, and I'll use her as an example. She's done food art, she does illustration, she's explored puzzles, she's done sculptures, she's done photography, and she's painted in different mediums. She's even explored watercolor on board. So things that are unconventional like that, I think are some of the things that we should be thinking about as artists. Look at, I think another good example of that is Victor Hikameno. Victor Hikameno is not only a writer, but a photographer. He's worked in technology. He's worked as the graphic design director of a major Nigerian newspaper. He's done many book covers. He's done installations. So you really need to think about not just painting, but all the different ways that you can create. Some of them will be commercial, some of them will be not commercial, but just explore your creativity. Paul, next slide, please, so I don't spend forever on this one.
All right.
Okay, just again to follow my previous point, your studio is global. And when I say your studio is global, you have things like Instagram, which means that every artist that anybody else could see in the world, you are one of those artists that any collector on the planet can see, right? So if you read an article or an interview about a collector that collects, maybe they collect African art, or maybe they collect art about music, and you paint musicians, or they collect only sculptures and you're a sculptor, or so look at different collectors both in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria. So for example, there's a huge collector called Mr. Femi Akinsoya, and Mr. Femi Akinsoya collects everything from traditional art all the way to contemporary art that was made yesterday. So those kind of collectors, a wide array of things will appeal to them, but there are also collectors who collect narrowly and collect in buckets. What is good about those kind of collectors is if they are interested in your work, they will collect your work deeply. So think about your studio being global. Think about the content that you post on social media. Think about showing your process, talking about your process. Where you have the capacity, set up a website, set up a mailing list, and have people sign up to that waiting list. Send periodic updates to the people on that waiting list when you have a group show, right? Because that way you also begin to cultivate your own collectors, such that when your work is in an exhibition, whether solo, whether group, you have the people that even you can invite, and that makes you look great to the galleries, but also makes you look great to the collector, because the collector is like, oh, I found this guy maybe even before you, the gallery, found him, and he's my host tonight, right? Or she's my host tonight. So really think about ownership of your practice in such a way that not only are you trying to build gallery relationships, but you're also building collector relationships, right? That way you also have an idea of what happens on the and those relationships should not just be about transacting. Invite them to your studio, talk to them about your work, invite feedback from them, use that feedback to refine your process. Great way to have a studio practice. I find ChatGPT to be a really useful resource, but like every resource, it can be used for good, it can be used for bad, it can be intended for good and turn out bad. You have to give it the prompts that are your own ideas, you have to give it your own thinking, and refine what it gives you. Don't just copy and paste your results on ChatGPT, stress test them, think about the why. But I think ChatGPT is a fantastic resource for storytelling, community building, distilling ideas, summarizing documents. So use what technology gives you to your advantage. In terms of other technology platform, Artsy is a great one. Even if your work is not featured on Artsy yet, you can still use it to research artists, galleries, collectors, trends, and pricing. They also regularly publish articles. So it's a great way to just sort of improve your worldview and your knowledge base. And I have a line here that says, so many artists are discovered online through compelling storytelling and visibility. So think about how your work is being communicated to your audience, and think of everybody as your audience. So how is my work being communicated to my audience? Are they only engaging with my work by seeing the work? Am I writing about the work in a way that people understand it and are interested in the theme or the subject matter? Is there some intellectual rigor behind the development of a body of work? And then you go on to think about things like who collect my work. Ideally, you want your work to be placed in reputable collections. I've given the example of one really, really good collector in Nigeria. There are many, many, many fantastic collectors in Nigeria. Talk to other artists, you understand people's reputations and people's sort of behaviors. It's a very small art market, so with some intentionality, you can actually get very far very quickly. And I also said here that if you don't define your digital presence, somebody else will. Or worse, no one will be able to find you. And what's a shame there is that will mean you are winking in the dark. Nobody knows you are winking. Next slide, please. I hope you can still all hear me clearly.
Sure, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so I have this slide that says you are who you connect with. Oh, sorry, ignore me. You are who you connect with. So here I've said collectors, attend galleries, open studios, and art fairs. I want to imagine that most of the people on this call are based in Lagos. Artex is coming up. Automatically, you should be interested in being there. You want to even try to be there on the collectors opening where you can. Some of these things require connections, but it's part of the business, right? So you've got to build those connections and be able to attend these things, meet artists, meet collectors, meet dealers, and do something, have something different about yourself, right? So maybe it's that you meet people and you show them some of your work on your phone, or you wear a t-shirt that has your work, and it doesn't have to particularly be blatant, but when you are speaking to people, you can say, oh, this is actually one of my paintings. So some of those little things, or maybe you wear a face cap and on the side of your face cap it says what your name is, just these little branding things, because like I will say later in the presentation, art is 50% talent and the other 50% is marketing. The way that marketing is done in the art world is very different from how it is done for fast-moving consumer goods, for example, right? It's very subtle, very conservative. So you have to think about how you are perceived as an artist. I wanted to also say or ask, just for engagement purposes, how many people have seen an N1 in person? Okay, Paul, Clinton, and Paul too. Okay, well, I mean, it doesn't matter. But the point I'm trying to make here is that a lot of these fine artworks are in private collections, But of course, we have museums. There's the Shillong Museum, there is the National Museum in Oniko, there's the Randall Center, where you can go and see works. There's public libraries, a few. I remember one that I used to go to at the Church of Assumption in Ikoyi. I'm not sure that they have art books, but it's a good library anyway. You can go to bookshops, flip through books, look at references. Even if you don't buy, take a picture of some of the references of the art books that are in there. I won't say this to a larger group of people than this, but I have a really, really, really good library. And once in a while, artists come and just sit in the gallery and go through some of the books there for reference purposes. Because of BYC, you are very welcome to use that leverage. So, for example, we have an entire collection of Black Orpheus, which was edited by Ulibaya, and it was funded by the Nigerian government. It was funded by a foreign government. And then we have a collection of Nigerian magazine, which was funded by the Nigerian government. And we have many other publications. We have books on Nigerian modernism, the different schools, the Oshogbo School, Suka School, Uli, you name it. We have quite an extensive collection of books. And so whenever you need a reference, whenever you need inspiration, go to books, go to museums, expand your worldview, and use that. The knowledge that you gain from that is a great way to engage with collectors. So if you walk into a collector's home and your work is next to an Enwonwu, for example, you want to know enough about Enwonwu to be able to say, actually, these are some of the similarities between my work and Enwonwu's work, or these are some of the differences between my work and Enwonwu's work, or how I don't agree with some of the ways that he did things. And yes, these artists, the modernists and all the artists that came before you, they are canonized, right? But I think one of the hallmarks of a good artist is to be able to. Okay. So like I said, you document and share your process so that collectors buy into your story and not just the work. It's also something I had said earlier. Then I'll talk about patrons. Patrons are people who like you, like your work, and become supporters of your practice. In some instances, patrons actually give artists a stipend to just continue to produce work without the pressures of selling. Patrons are the people who will buy your works both within your studio and when you have exhibitions outside of your studio. Patrons are the kind of people who will advocate for you, who will speak your name in rooms where you are not, who will talk to other collectors, talk to galleries, talk to curators, and ultimately even talk to museum directors. Because part of building a sustainable art practice is having the buy-in of institutions. When you have a collector who really believes in your work, don't be afraid to leverage the relationship. Ask for support where you think you need support. Ask when you need help with buying materials. You will naturally know the people who are disposed towards that and those who aren't. There are some people who will be more happy to be generous with their relationships and introduce you to specific people who you want to meet. And there are also some patrons who will say, well, there's some space in my office or in my BQ. If you need a studio, just come and paint from there. People invest where they feel a connection. So please come out of your shell and interact. Paul, how am I doing for time? Okay, it's back now. Okay. So I also wanted to talk about collaboration with other artists. Sometimes you can even do things like exchange ideas. Paint like me, right? So I will just use two random names, say Miriam and Austin, right? Miriam can say, Austin paints like me, Miriam paints like me, and see how you can develop other styles apart from your own style. Critique your friends' works or other artists' work and support one another. When somebody who is an artist friend of yours has a show, share it on your show story, share it to other other collectors, share it to other artists. You never know how opportunities come around. For example, today my gallery only represents one artist officially, and his name is Adewale Kolawole. I think he might be on this call. I discovered John on the Instagram story of David Olatoye. And John has then become an artist collaborator friend of mine. And David is a lifelong partner and collaborator. And so you never know what just a simple thing like helping somebody else can do for you. There have been many instances that it might not even be you that the collector ends up supporting deeply, but there will always be that relationship, and that generosity of yours will be acknowledged till the end of time. And everybody has their day and their person and their support system. But trust me, when you've done that kind of thing for somebody, they will find it difficult to say no to you when you come to them for something. So think about those kind of things. Build peer mentorship groups. I really, really like BYC, and that's why I'm supporting anything that BYC does. I think that the vision and mission of BYC really, really resonates with me. And if you look back in the history, successful artists have come out of a group. And I like that you guys are doing this so early on. The Zaria Rebels must have been around your age when they came together with Uche Okeke leading them, and Dema Suoko, Yusuf Grillo, and all the other greats who came from that school. If you look at Benewangu and Kenneth Murray, who was his teacher, if you look at Olowe Ovise and the workshop that he had for sculpting, if you think about Lamidi Fakeye and Father Carol, think about the Oshobo school under Ulibaya and Georgina Baya and Susan Venga, and all of the artists that came from those different schools. You will see that coming together is much, much better than trying to do it alone. And there's a quote in the corner that I think talks about nobody being able to no, but people not doing things in isolation. Yeah, no one succeeds in isolation. Your network is your network. Mr. Tunde, come in. I'm on a call. Can we just slide back again to the other side of the page? Okay. So as I said, support each other's exhibitions and growth, both in the industry and in general. Mr. Tunde, I don't know if we can do anything on the internet until I finish this call. So yes, I was saying support one another, both in professional practice, but also even in life in general. Your artist friend has a baby, has a wedding, has an exhibition, go show support. Nobody really makes it in isolation. On my journey, so many people have helped me. I collaborate with many dealers, many gallerists. Before I opened my gallery, many galleries had offered me their galleries to use for exhibitions. That's how I've been able to build the experience. So if I were doing an exhibition at my friend's gallery and they were giving me either a free usage or a subsidized usage of the gallery, any mistake I made then, I would be better able to absorb it from a financial perspective because I wasn't paying I wasn't investing a significant amount of money. And with friends and with collaborators, I've been able to make those mistakes with minimal risk and go into the business fully, having understood what it takes to do to carry out a successful exhibition. I've done it for 15 years now, and a lot more frequently over the last 3 to 4 years. So at the end of the day, your growth compounds and you get further quicker with the support of others before you, people coming after you. But just think about community. Now, I will go on to curators. Curators are very helpful in unpacking your concepts and positioning your work in the right context. So, a lot of the time, working with a curator can help you improve the narrative around your work. So, invite curators for studio visits, share works in progress with them, ask them for feedback. Curators also read widely, study widely, and they can also give you references to um, people who have come before you who you may not even know. So, for example, I collected a BC Fakeye work recently, and the work very closely resembles Yusuf Ainur's sculptures and the forms in some of his paintings. But when I received that work and the BC Fakeye work, and I showed Yusuf Ainur a picture of it, he had actually never seen the work before, which means he wasn't inspired by it, but guess what? Somebody had done it before. I was also having a conversation with another artist, very good artist friend of mine a few days ago. And the conversation was about somebody doing work in a similar style to her. And I said, well, there is a world where the person was inspired by you. There is a world in which the person has seen that you have been successful in that style and they simply want to copy it, which in its own case is flattering. And it could actually be that the person was not at all inspired or motivated by your own work. So I think that, you know, there are many ways to think about these things. So it's something that you need to have in mind. And the person is texting me at the moment. That's why I'm smiling. Next slide, please. Okay, I've touched a little bit on this, but I'm going to say that you should make yourself unforgettable. You are not just an artist, you are a brand. The art world thrives on individually, so use it. And I've put some examples here: fashion, hairstyles, accessories. Again, I'll use a live example of somebody you know. David Olatole, every time I see him and his fashion or hairstyle expressions, I say that he's the 277 of our time, because 277 in those days was very expressive with his fashion. And this is actually something that was originally pointed by Victor Hikameno. So when you stand out like that, someone people will always have something to remember you with. I mean, I couldn't wear those shirts, David, and I don't know if he's on the call, but I couldn't wear those net t-shirts. But I think it's actually pretty cool. Um, I've said also that you should use every skill and quirk you have to make your practice recognizable. Um, and I've also said you can distinguish yourself with content creation, with photography, with writing, and with design, because those are all tools for standing out. I've even seen some artists whose Instagram feed, if you look at the feed on itself, is like they use it to do a pattern or all these kind of things. But anyway, there are many ways that I think you can distinguish yourself and set yourself apart from others. So leverage your other skills. I could tell you for free that part of why I am able to sell art in the way that I can is because of my social skills. I'm probably not more brilliant than the next person, but you would really, really struggle to out support somebody or out befriend somebody if you had to compete with me, or out socialize me. So I think that whatever it is that is your superpower, leverage it. And please don't expose my superpower to the world. Next slide, please. I see that there are questions in the Q&A box. I think just so that we can have a nice interactive session. I'll finish with the slides and then we can take the questions. Hopefully, we can take as many or all of the questions that are asked. I've also said here that the worst you can hear is no. So go to art fairs, go to openings, engage with collectors, especially when your work is in the show, because you actually have something to engage with them about. But even when your work is not in the show, engage in conversation. These are people that maybe you've seen them on Instagram or you've heard about them, you've read an article, you've watched a YouTube interview that they've granted. Um, and you are in the same room with them. Take advantage of those moments and really just strike a conversation. Um, I follow artists all the time. They say something, I find it funny, or they comment on something that I post, and we engage. Um, so and I'm going to also be honest here. Some of the interactions can be annoying. So try to not be annoying, um, because also a lot of the collectors, can see through things. I'll give you guys an example, and I'm being very real on this call. Um, I once reached out to an artist in expressing interest in his work, and he's an artist who I eventually found out that follows at the same time. It's very obvious what's happening in those kind of situations, right? So let's try to be reasonable with how we engage with collectors. Do not assume that you are the only smart person, or assume that the person on the other side is stupid. Sometimes some things happen that appear very blatant and can come off embarrassing in the end. But that said, don't wait for opportunities, create them. And is not the end. There are artists who reach out to me whose works I respect, but is not my cup of tea. Not out of, it's not personal. In most cases, try to be polite in how I interact. But just take whatever feedback you get, do not take it personal. Rejection is not the end. And that collector A or collector B is not keen on your work, whether they are a big collector or not, does not invalidate your work or your practice. So please keep that in mind. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. Resources are finite. As a dealer, I appreciate the people who spend money that they don't have to spend with me, because it's not how they are going to sleep. It's not how they are going to eat. It's not their children's school fees. It's literally the last thing that they need to be buying art. So I really, really respect the relationships I have with the people who take their hard-earned money to buy a canvas, a sculpture, a work on board, a work on paper from me at whatever price point. I appreciate my and my circumstances change. So please, as much as be respectful, be kind towards everybody. Collectors will also be annoying, by the way. Some collectors will owe you money. Some intend to owe you. Some don't intend to owe you, but still do anyway. It really is all part of it. But in all of these instances, you come out as a more experienced and more refined artist. I've said pitch yourself to others, invite curators and collectors to studio visits, reach out to galleries regularly, walk into galleries on quiet days, have conversations. If the main person isn't there, build relationships with the young colleagues of the decision makers of the gallery. Apply for residencies, grants, and open calls as often as possible. By nature, you get rejected more than you get accepted. In many cases, you will not get a response. I know an artist who I work with who we've been trying to get him into residency programs for about 2 years, but he only got into a residency program this year. And in many of those cases, relationships begin to matter. The practice of applying for those residencies, the practice of the gallery even guiding the artist to apply for residencies, all of these kind of things come into play. And at the end of the day, when a resource is finite and the desire for it is much more than the resource, things like connections, social skills, and anything with which you can give yourself an edge or leverage, they actually come into play. I always say everything in life is politics. Your relationship with your parents is politics. Your relationship with your collectors is politics. Your interaction with your gate man when he opens the gate is politics. Even how you deal with your pets is politics. Everything is politics. And if you think about it like that, also another guiding principle of mine is that I'd like to not leave things to chance. So where there is a connection you can use, by all means use it. That is how the world works. A no today can become a yes tomorrow. Let's assume that you have applied to a particular residency program 3 years in a row. And after the third rejection, you meet somebody who is a trustee of the residency program or a director of the foundation that runs it, or somebody who is able to influence the people who make the decisions. Being able to say, 2025, 2024, 2023, I applied, I kept getting rejected and I kept applying. We'll make them consider you the fourth time. And then I also say use your community as leverage. Referrals matter. Next slide, please. Okay, again, something I said earlier, art is 50% talent and all of a sudden, something happens in the world that makes that topic a germane topic. And very quickly, your profile skyrockets. I also say that your art should show depth and relevance, and also do research, not just about your medium, but about the world your art lives in. I think we're getting towards the end now. So, Paul, how many more slides? One or two? Next slide, please, Paul. Okay. In the absence of the rest of the slides, I think we can go into Q&A. Actually, hold on. Let me open the slides on my device and see if there's anything that I still want to say. Job immediately after school. Get back and fully be organized after 10 years in the art market. Do you want to just ask that question by voice because I don't fully understand?
All right, thank you very much, sir. I think we have a network glitch earlier.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you
Michael, do
so
you
much
want to
for
ask your
the
question, please,
expository.
very quickly?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Sorry, okay. Now, my question is
Version of that will be to have a personal website, which has your CV, your portrait, your bio, exhibition history, and some pictures of your work. That way, if people can't find you on Instagram and they do a Google search, at least they still find something to look at. Also, when you have a website, it's easier to convince Instagram to give you back your account. So I think it's also about how you run your Instagram account. So it's something that I think you should keep in mind as well.
oh.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Kayode. Yeah, apologize. I was actually connected to speaker then, so I didn't get to switch off the Bluetooth, so that's why. So good afternoon, Mr. Kayode. I think I'll use this opportunity to appreciate you for your time, your generosity, and a lot of things that you've got to share with us today. Sincerely, I've got to learn a lot of things today. There was because I have my diary here, because I was actually jotting a lot of things that you've been saying, and I actually grasped what you said about art is 50% talent, 50% marketing. And you said something again that good art isn't just about making it; it's about communicating it, which is very, very important. So really appreciate everything that you've shared with us today. So I just have a question. So my question is, sir, please, what common mistakes do you think emerging artists make when trying to appeal to collectors?
I gave one example during my presentation, and it's an example that actually happened to me. With the price difference and the going to announce the arrival of a collector in their orbit to a bunch of other artists who now and then bombarded my Instagram. So that's one thing that I think that those kind of situations, I think, are situations where you should avoid. Avoid situations that make you look dishonorable. The truth is, collectors talk. I, as a dealer, will not offer an artist a work. A collector a work at 30,000 and offer another collector at 50,000 because they talk. Collectors talk. So, if I mean that's one example I've given. I'm sure there are many others. So everything is politics. Play your politics right. Miriam, question.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you very much. My question is, how can an artist successfully merge two different practices? For example, I'm a ceramics and I'm also a paracollage artist. Like in a way that feels authentic and still build a clear artistic identity to collectors.
Okay, so if I understand your question right, is
Yes.
your question that when you have different mediums,
Yes.
how do you get so okay, no, you rephrase the question so I understand it.
Okay. My is like how can an artist successfully merge two different art practices? For example, like ceramic and my like artwork, like painting
Well,
together.
it's really the same practice, right? It's the same practice using two different mediums. You can one of the first ways that you can unify them is unifying them by theme. You unifying them by maybe some kind of pattern or identification marks. So, for example, Victor Hikameno, whether he's doing an installation or a painting or perforations, you still see things that are trademarks of Victor Hikameno's style. So you can use those kind of things to tie them together. Use the theme or the curatorial direction to tie them together. But also experiment with painting on ceramics or using ceramics as part of your painting as well. So there are many ways to merge them together.
Thank you. My next question.
Only you.
Uh,
That's
Okay,
that's
you are
typical
a
for
woman.
Maria.
You are the first woman to ask questions. So please go ahead with your second one. Do an extra one for the women.
okay. Uh, my next question is, how can an artist maintain relationship with collectors while staying true to their creative vision? For example, like we know how this thing runs in an art is in the art industry, whereby you still work and like to be a full-time artist is not something easy. So I feel sometimes artists sell their work like they are not consistent with price. Like how can I don't know. I don't know if you get me. If
All
you
right,
get
can I? Let
Well,
me.
I
I
think
think
the
I get
answer
a
to that is
question.
discipline. I think the answer to that is discipline because you have to think about if you are working from your studio, you also have to think about when you are assigned to a gallery, right? Because when you are assigned to a gallery, you have to be transparent, and you don't want a situation where you are spiting your nose to cut your face by having galleries sell your work to collectors at a certain price point, and then you are undercutting the gallery from the studio. It all goes back to discipline and trust between you and your counterparty, whether that counterparty is a collector or a gallery. Miriam, if you have one more, I'll let you go.
I have one more actually.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. The third one is how can emerging artists position themselves to attract collectors without seeming too commercial?
I think the opposite side of commercialness is non-commercialness, right? And it's so the way that I think about what is non-commercial is I think about it as institutional. I think about it as seminal. I think about it as scholarly. I think about it as archival, right? So if I see an artist that goes into archives, if I see an artist that reads scholarly and academic articles about previous movements, whether in Nigeria or in other parts of the world, I will certainly respect that artist that can, have a conversation with me about something that a pot that Ladi Kwali made in the 70s, or how Ladi Kwali became who she was in the global canon. Those kind of things I will find very interesting. If a ceramicist can talk about 5 generations of ceramics in Nigeria, I will really respect that ceramicist, even if their ceramics are ugly.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I really appreciate
If you have a fourth, you can email it to me.
it. I definitely do that, sir. Thank you.
Um, Olamide, you can now ask your question. Olamide Falore.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
You're with you, sir.
We can hear you. We
Okay.
can hear you. You can continue.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask, how does emerging artist build
How
credibility,
does
an emerging artist build credibility with foreign collectors? Because I've had instances where some of these foreign collectors reach out to me and then they say, "Oh, we want to buy your work. The pricing is all right and everything." But the moment you mention you are from Nigeria, and that's where the shipping will be from, that is where you just get this silence from them. And that has happened over and over again. And I've always put my details and everywhere, the places where the inspiration for my work and everywhere I live and based on my page on Instagram. So I would have assumed that most of them would have checked that to know that this is where this artist is coming from. But it has always happened that way, that I just get this radio silence from them after mentioning that I'm from Nigeria. So I wanted to
I
know.
will be very surprised if the reason is because you are Nigerian. I would say that it probably has something to do with one, what is the easiest ways for them to make payment to Nigeria? Do they know the exchange rates, and do they know that there may be a difference between the exchange rates in the parallel market and in the official market? Um, but ultimately, I think in terms of answering your question directly, the way that you can ensure credibility is to also have the support of the local collectors in Nigeria. Because if a foreign collector sees that 3, 4, 5, 10 of the important Nigerian collectors, or relative people that they know or can relate with from Nigeria are following you, then they will feel a little bit more confident to transact with you. I think just the general idea of pitching foreign investors, pitching foreign collectors requires a level of tact and finesse.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks.
I hope my answer was not too roundabout. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir, it does, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thank you. Andrew, do you have a question?
Yeah, sure, I do. I do.
Okay, please go ahead
So,
now. Then after you, Ajayi Tosin will take over.
so my question is this: how do collectors react to change, and what spot does it put the artist? I would like to break it down so everybody can understand. So personally, as a visual artist and as an human being too, I wake up sometimes and I just want certain change in my life. Probably the way I'm looking, I probably just want to cut my hair off. I'm tired of the way I'm looking, and I just want a new look. And there's this feeling that comes with, I'm speaking for everybody here. There's this feeling that comes with making an art piece. You would always want to get it, that sense of satisfaction. So there are sometimes I keep doing my normal random things, and it's feeling like no, I'm not feeling these things anymore, and I just want to change. Like this time, I want to change entirely. So I would like to know, does the collector, if I have a collector now that collects my pieces, will he consider this as inconsistency, or he naturally just recognizes this as a normal artist thing? I'd like to be clear on
Actually, I
that.
think it is very much well, not, I won't say a problem, but it's something that's very common in creatives. I have I don't know, I won't say good fortune, I won't say misfortune, but I'm a lawyer. If I had known the extent of my passion for the arts, I may not necessarily have wasted my time going to study law, actually. Right? So, should I wonder whether the people who paid me to advise them on legal services while I practiced law, they can go have another lawyer now? And now I'm selling art. My clients are my priority now. I'm doing what I find to give me joy. And if you change your style, whether it's your appearance or the style of your work, I think whoever had been collecting those works will feel like they have something that is either closed off or on pause, which can never really be a bad thing. So it really depends on how people look at it. There's also nothing that says you do this style today and you don't come back to it much later. It's very easy to come back to styles that you've explored in the past. So by all means, try other styles, and as much as possible, just try and stand out. I know you said you made the example of cutting your hair. Let's assume you had locks before, and then you are cutting your hair. Then maybe make it blue or gold or whatever. Like, do you remember how people were talking about Ashake's blue hair? He hadn't released any music, but he used hair to keep us talking about him.
That's good. Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's clear, Nathan.
Yeah, sure, very clear.
All right, Tosin, you can take over now. All right, Baron, your next question.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. K. Sir, my question, I have two questions. The first one, in the course of the presentation, you mentioned the 10,000 hour rules, like that you need to get to a mastery point in any profession. Now, my question is this, sir. As an artist, we understand this principle that it requires you 10,000 hours, and you've not actually accumulated hours. You understand? I'm talking personally because when I finished from school, I started applying this rule, and I have not gotten to that yet. So my question is this: can I start pitching my portfolios to collectors, or I should just wait till it click to that rule, or is it rude to pitch your portfolios to collectors when you know that you have not primarily been recognized? And the second question is this: is it a red flag or a green flag for an artist whose aim is to get to this um, recognized level of artist we all know in the world? Is it a red flag to have a website on, or let me say, a profile site on all these e-commerce art markets, example like Sachi and the rest? Is it a red flag or a green flag?
Okay. I know that we are taking collector points of views here, but because there's an artist in the room who I think has passed the level that you're talking about, I'll invite Hanifa Adams' perspective, please. Hanifa, I hope you're in a place that you can contribute to this, and I'll just add my thoughts after.
Please, what was the question? Because I was only hearing about marketplaces and something. I didn't really
Okay, so the
understand.
question was twofold. The second part was the marketplaces part. That is it a red flag or a green flag to list your art on e-commerce art platforms like Sachi?
Okay.
And the first question, Tosi, do you want to remind us the first part of the question?
Okay, the first part of the question is this: you mentioned about 10,000 hour rules, and I personally
Oh, yeah,
know
so he was asking that at what point should an artist be pitching their portfolio to collectors?
Okay. For the very first question, at any point, really, whatever point you are at, any work that you've done, you can always put it together and put it in a portfolio that you can be presenting. Like, for example, for me, over the years, my portfolio changes. And portfolios are, because I'm also such a multidisciplinary artist, my portfolios look different to different kind of people. Some people might be looking for illustration portfolios, some people might be looking for design portfolios or sculpture portfolios. So their portfolios are tailored to different people. So whatever stage you're in, whatever work you have, you put it together in a portfolio. So it can be anytime. You don't have to wait for any time. Anytime you have an opportunity to be able to present yourself, you should do that, because portfolios are basically a collection of your work. So it's whatever you are doing. Even you can also put works in progress in portfolio if it is necessary for whatever you are applying for or whatever you are presenting it for. Then for the secondly, first of all, it's very hard to even get on marketplaces. So if you can, please do. It doesn't matter whether you are able to sell or not. So people check marketplaces all the time. That is also a very fantastic place for artists to be discovered. Somebody that is researching for artists in a particular demographic or so, they look for places like reputable marketplaces. So it's very important what kind of marketplace that you are on. It is actually very hard to get on them. A lot of times they don't even really take artists independently, they take galleries. So it's maybe because a gallery is in a particular marketplace that you can get on it. So yeah, that's basically it. I
Thank you
think
so much, Hanifa, for that
yeah.
contribution. I will just add to your response to, or to Hanifa's response to question, the first part of the question. And I would say that it is bad to pitch your work to collectors or pitch your portfolio or send your portfolio to collectors. I think as much as possible, make it organic, make it refined. Let it not just be, oh, I'm sending you my portfolio, and this is the outcome I want is that you receive my portfolio or you give me feedback on my portfolio. I think build the relationship, talk to the person over time, see how they take to your work generally, and then say, oh, there's this other body of work that maybe you've not seen, or this, I want to show you the entire breadth of my practice. I'm more likely to, so I have a relationship with Paul, I'm more likely to look at a portfolio that Paul sends to me than respond to a cold email I get that just says, good morning, this is my portfolio. Let me know what you think. Because I get 1,500 of that.
Wow. All right, thank you very
So,
much. I hope you get that, Tosin. All right, thank you very much, sir. I have a couple of questions here with me as well, but then some of them has been answered already, and some of them has been already touched upon. Part of what I wanted to ask is about building the relationship with collectors, which you've already talked about already extensively on that, which is the most important part of this conversation. And then we also talk about the aspect of artists changing their practice, their art style from one to the other. I believe some collectors respond to that negatively, while some collectors are indifferent about change, while some others are more interested in the change. I know of a particular artist, Jeff, is it an artist that changed his style, and because he changed his style, he's a white artist, by the way. So because he changed his style, the market rejects the new style he's working on. And because due to the rejection, he had to pack all his works, all his remaining art that he has in studio, move into more like the woods, a village settings, and was there for about 20, 30 years. Nobody heard about him until a collector had to find a art dealer to find out about him. People thought he was dead because he left the art market, he abandoned everything, and he was now doing the new style he's working on. I think that's where also
but
the
guess what? You're
aspect.
talking about him how many decades later?
Yes, yes.
So I
And
would
then now
always
about
say follow
20
your heart.
later,
I would always say
yes,
follow your heart,
yes.
change what you need to change. And ultimately, I think we all need to realize that we will not be everybody's cup of tea. We need
Hmm.
to be some people's cup of tea, and hopefully, the cup of tea of majority of the people, or the cup of tea of enough people to help us earn a living. And I think that in a lot of situations, that is sufficient.
Thank you very much for that. It is
So
very
even
important
Coca-Cola,
that
as popular it is, there are some people who don't like it.
people like me,
Exactly.
I prefer Pepsi to Coca-Cola.
There we are.
So thank you very
And
much
it's
for
not
that.
personal, right? I mean, the CEO of Coca-Cola should not be
Exactly,
upset about that.
exactly. And by the way, it is the same company that owns both Pepsi and Coca-Cola, still paying the same person. So yeah, thank you very much for that. One of the questions has been asked already about building trust. I think one of the most important thing in the art industry is trust. I know about the fact that majority of deals, big deals in art industry happens over a handshake. And building trust with collectors, building trust with galleries, building trust with dealers is very, very important. Can you just give us a very brief some hints about how to build
In very
trust
few
with
words,
artists.
it is a track record of transparency, a track record of trustworthiness, and the experience of the people who have dealt with you that can advocate for you with other people. It's simply that.
Okay, so that's more
So
like
there are collectors today who may not necessarily know me or may not necessarily have known me when I didn't have a gallery. And now that I've it will not be, they may not get a positive response from everybody they ask, but if they ask majority of the other dealers in the market who I have collaborated with in one way or the other, at least I think that I should be able to get a pass mark. So think
okay.
about that from an artist perspective as well. Who can advocate for you?
Mm.
And based
Thank you
on
very
what
much.
antecedents?
Yeah, that's true. I think that's one of the most important aspects. Earlier this year, I volunteered for Plus 3 Arts Fair, and what got more interested in the fair was the tags they write around. And one of the things says that this happened because somebody say yes. So it is very important you have to get a lot of people on your side to say yes in your humble beginnings, even in a simple forms. So I think some mistakes some artists also make is that they are always commercial in their sense, in the sense that they only want to sell they want to sell to the collector immediately. They are not interested. They are not interested in building a relationship that can last over the
Yeah.
years with them.
Yeah, and so one of the ways to go the extra mile in those kind of situations is suggest framing or presentation options. Even suggest, especially when the collector has available space on their walls, suggest where the work can go inside their space. Um,
Mhm,
actually visit them. It's not just about dispatching the work to a collector inside an Uber.
mhm,
Um, you know, understand their collecting pieces. Why do they collect? It's those kind of things that will help you build the relationship and the trust that you are looking for. If my interaction with an artist is limited to DM exchanges on Instagram, that is where that conversation and that relationship is going to live and die.
mhm, mhm. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Thank you so much for that. I also want to talk about hint about the aspect of curating
Mr.
this.
Paul, is it only you that wants to ask questions today?
No, I believe everybody has asked their question. That's why I'm asking some questions here to clear up the main ideas of
You
things.
are the only one
So
that is
the
making
question is
heavy
not
right
for me.
now.
Okay, we have somebody already, right? CEO, can you just ask your question before I finally end up with the questions? CEO, I want to believe your name. You are still online. Who is CEO here? I think it's
You
Olamide.
still okay? See you
Hi,
there.
hello. Sorry, CO. I was
Okay,
hearing
continue.
something else.
Is see all your the name that you are known as an artist, or is it your initials?
I'm actually not an artist. I'm an aspiring gallerist.
Okay, please go
Yes.
ahead and
So my
ask your
question
question.
to Mr. Kayode. Sorry, my name is Chidera. Yeah. So my question is, I'm trying to start a gallery, and I know a couple of artists at the right now. But I'm trying to marry it with literary work, and I don't think I've seen anything like that in Nigeria before. Like from what I've researched and checked for online, and even asked people. So I'm trying. I want to ask if it's possible to be able to marry representing artists and people who like write, like writers.
Okay,
And
this is
yeah,
really
sorry.
a hard one, but I will answer it very quickly. Art, art and literature often go very hand in hand. A lot of the time, poetry, prose, and plays are the inspiration for bodies of work. In history, you can look at Chinua Achebe and Uche Okeke, for example. Uche Okeke painted several times with works of Chinua Achebe as his inspiration. Victor Hikameno does it a lot, even with the way he titles his work. If you are a literature buff, you will realize that a lot of them are references, a lot of the titles are references to works of literature. And sometimes you even find hidden text inside some artist's work that may be inspired by or be lifted from literature. But I think that that's a conversation that we can have after this call, and maybe Paul can put you and I in touch, and I'm more than happy to engage. I see Yetunde's hand up. Just before we take Yetunde's question, does anybody else have any questions so that we can begin to wrap up?
Yes, please, Mr. Kayode, there is another question from me. I also wanted to ask, because this is something I've seen a lot, when people ask what is African art. So because
I think let's allow the artists to have their moment,
okay,
and then we can
okay,
have a
sorry.
conversation. That question is different from the topic of this call. I think we should allow them to have their moment.
All right, that's fine.
Thank you. So Paul will put us in touch and we can engage.
All right.
Yetunde,
Hi, Mr. Kayode. Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my question is, how do you pitch to a collector as an experimental artist? An artist that likes to experiment across different mediums, because sometimes you come across to them as, on serious, like have a niche for yourself, like pick one, and stuff like that. But sometimes, let's take for instance, for me, I prefer to experiment with clay, with watercolor, and just across different medium. And I don't think it really sits well with them. What would you advise?
Okay, I think I
What would you
addressed
advise
this in
me?
my original presentation, but I will invite Hanifa once again because she's a multidisciplinary artist. I would like to invite her views. I honestly don't know it all, and maybe my own view of it is not nuanced or developed enough. So I'm actually calling for backup here.
What's the question again?
Yes, you want to go ahead.
How, Hi, Anifa.
Hi.
How do you pitch to collectors as an experimental artist? Like, you're at a stage of
Oh,
experimenting different mediums.
um, in my own personal experience, I don't think they care about maybe your use of material or something. When your story is strong enough, when your narrative is consistent, it doesn't really matter the material you are using to say the story. In fact, they always welcome experiments. They always like when you do something new, because at the end of the day, when you've done the same thing over and over and over again, it might get maybe uninteresting or boring, and they want to see something new. They want you to do something else, like experiment. That they actually really love it. From my own experience, so because I used to do plenty experiments, so it's something that is actually quite appreciated. And once you have a cohesive and distinct language, like for example, even though I use up to 10 different materials, I use food, I use the regular traditional ones, the canvases, I do sculpture, I do even film. Because I'm very big on just doing anything I like. My language is still very consistent. Even with my colors are sort of like, if you look at all my work at a glance, they all look similar. I'm always still telling the same thing about representation, about my lived experiences, about identity. Across whatever medium I'm using, I'm saying the same thing. So that is what is most important, not really the material. Because they want you to be versatile, they want you to be able to do anything. And I'm also coming from the background of working with like brands. So a lot of times there is a brief they want you to follow. They want you to be able to do something that they want. And that is also what makes you a good artist when you have a collector who wants to do a commission. Just because maybe you don't always make portraits, but a collector wants you to do a portrait of him or his family or someone else as a gift or something, you should be able to do that as an artist. It's always great to be versatile. So experiments are always welcome. It's not really a big deal sometimes. If you have something new you want to try, do it so that you have something to show. You're not just writing it and trying to imagine it and everything. You actually have to like create it and let them see. Then if it looks really great and they like it, then it's not an issue at all. That's what I think.
Thank you, Hanifa. I don't think I could have answered it better.
Thank you very much, Anita.
And
Thank you,
also,
Mr.
I think
Kayode.
there's a lesson there, right, guys? Ask for help.
Okay.
Okay, guys, I'm actually now
Okay.
tired, though. I'm sorry, I've got to go.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. We really appreciate the time you've given to us. And we at PYC really appreciate your support over the times. And just before you go, this is not one that is going to rack your brain a little bit. So at every section, we often ask three questions to our facilitator. Number one question, I'm going to ask everything at once. Number one question is, what book or movie will you recommend for artists here to read or watch that will help them build their understanding about how to build a collector-artist relationship? Number two is this
Let me answer number one
section
first.
is a series.
So,
Okay.
number one, the two, well, okay, I'll talk about one art book and I'll talk about a documentary that has nothing to do with art at all, and it's not with visual art. So, in terms of a book, I read a book called Boom, and it's about the contemporary art market. The main character of the book is Larry, or the main person that's talked about in the book is Larry Gagosian, who is a one of the biggest art, if not the biggest art dealer or gallerist in the world. That book really helped shape my thought from a dealer's perspective, but I find it to be a very interesting book. Even I've recommended it to even people who have no interest in art. The documentary that I would recommend to anybody is not related to art, but it's called The Black Godfather, and it is about a gentleman who paved the way for many black Hollywood producers and music producers and artists, musicians in LA. And I've watched it at least 20 times. I watch it probably
Wow.
at the minimum every year. I watch it once. I can recite some of the lines, but I think it's really cool. Um, in both cases, so in case of Larry Gagosian and the Black Godfather, um, I think they are two people whose social skills have helped them exceptionally well. Um,
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
yeah,
Thank
so
you
I
so much.
read books and consume content that helps me develop my strengths. And where I have weaknesses, I call people like Hanifa to back me.
I think I learned something there. Thank you very much for that, sir. So the second question is because this workshop is a series, and I have limit my level of engagement. Like your strength now is kind of my own weakness. I'm not too good in socializing, so I leverage on the little people I've already known to get me access into some doors. So who will you because we have another section in December, which is going to be a collector section. Who would you recommend for us to reach out to, or you reach out to on our behalf to bring on board for the next section, sir?
What category of
Either collector or curator or artist.
I would definitely recommend Tony Ola. He's I think a fantastic curator of this generation,
So Niola, okay.
without a doubt.
All right, sir. I actually I don't have any access to him yet, so I'm
Well,
going to
he's
be doing your
popularly
DM.
known as Tony Ola, but his full name is Tony Agbakwong.
Oh, Mr. Tony. Oh, I know Mr. Tony. I know of Art Bridge.
There we are.
Okay, I'm very close to Mr. Tony. He's already on our list already.
Okay, so do
Yeah,
you
thank
want
you
me to
very
give
much.
another recommendation, or that's a good
A
start?
recommendation for collector now.
Collector, I would say Tony Odulate.
So in Dulate. All right, I'll be your DM to get details about this is Mr. Soye Dulate. All right, thank you very much.
Miss.
Okay, it's a miss. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. All right, the last question is what's the parting word you can give if you want to summarize the whole of this section, or one thing you want every artist here to take home from this section? Give us a
Everything
parting
is
word, maybe a line,
politics
a shout out.
and nothing is personal.
Everything is politics and nothing. That's powerful. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your time.
Thank
This
you.
is the end of.
Share the slides with participants. It has the email address of the gallery there if anybody needs to
Okay,
get
all
in
right.
touch.
I've, I'll write my email in the inbox, mail of the collective in the inbox. So if you need the slides, kindly reach out to me on the email. I'm going to forward the slide to you at byc.collective@gmail.com. If you need the slide that you just watched now or the slide that you used for this section, please reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to send it to your DM. Of course, I'm going to drop it in the collective forum page, by the way. So thank you everyone for joining Miss Anifa. Thank you for coming to the rescue of Mr. Kayode today. And thank you, Miss
Thank you.
Yetunde. Thank you, Miss CEO. Thank you all that joined today. And to the DYC team, thank you for joining in. So this is the end of today's session. It is one thing to have a workshop, it's another thing to put what you've learned to action. The most important thing is to get those things that you've learned now, you package them together and put them into action, make them actionable. You've learned about how to relate with collectors now. You have to start putting them in action. Applying to residencies, sending emails, things like that. You need to learn how to put those things now. That is why this is called workshop. It is not a webinar. It is a workshop because you are going to learn something that you are going to put into action. You are going to put to work. So we will have called it. I will have called it a webinar, but I that you are going to put into action. So thank you very much once again for joining this section. I really appreciate every one of you. All of you are the you are the one that made this workshop more interesting. Thank you, Abu Oluseun. Thank you, Adeshino Adeleke. Thank you, Adetola Feromi, Ajayi Tosin. Thank you, Andrew Nathan. Thank you, Bakari Olamide, thank you. Blue Fire, thank you. CO, thank you. Clinton John, thank you. Damilola Ilori, thank you. Damola, thank you. Deborah Atua, thank you. Dotun Tunade. I hope I'm pronouncing you guys' name very well. Thank you. Moses, Emmanuel Shibude, thank you. Christopher, thank you. Anifa Adams, thank you once again. Temitope, thank you. Jos Art, thank you. Joy, Ifeanyi, Juma, Kolade, Kayode, sorry. Olubunmi, thank you so much. Olamide, thank you. Yinka, thank you. Gulesi, thank you. Precious, Ofure, Rotimi Godwin, thank you guys for joining. Wow, Valerie Ushi, thank you for joining. We have our last facilitator on the call. Thank you, Valerie, for joining in. And thank you, Yetunde Ajayi. Thank you, Shola, Mr. Shola Muiwa, and everyone that joined. I really appreciate your time and for joining the workshop today. The section will be made available on our YouTube page. Our last workshop, which talks about artistic research, is also on our YouTube page. Just go to your YouTube and search for Balago Young Contemporaries. Then you will see the YouTube channel there. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because we want to make this like an archive for everyone to come back to in case when you need a help or something to do, you can go back to it. So the section will be made available online. Thank you guys once again, and again, bye bye.